This is episode 5 and day 36 of making a classic Roblox RPG. Today I have a lot of features to cover, but before we do, I'd like to reply to some comments. Firstly, I want to thank you so much for 100 subscribers and the support on the last video. I know we can hit 1K, so let's get it. Now on to some comments. At Average Godzilla Stan says, I have a tip. Make a different animation for holding items such as the sword that makes it go with the hand instead of it sticking out and ruining the animation. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I will most definitely add it. At Undercover Steve asks, is this going to be a PvP or PvE game? Progress looks great already. I'll answer this in depth later in this video concerning the gameplay, but I'm planning for it to be both. At @_duck asks, will there be mobile? Yes, eventually. I'd rather finish the game and then port it, which shouldn't be too hard. This guy asks, will you make a storyline like Block Tales and like different enemies? Now, I had only played a little bit of Block Tales before reading your comment, but now getting a little further into the game, I will say, the game gives me the same vibe from playing a game like Undertale or Deltarune. I am planning a storyline, and there will be different enemies and such. I will elaborate on the playstyle of the game a little later in this video. Finally, at res_r says, add zombos. Not too bad an idea for a boss, I may or may not have already added it. Okay, now I want to get into the updates I added to the game. I made a poll in the community asking if you wanted longer videos or shorter videos. You guys voted for longer videos by a landslide. So I deliver. I was tired of scripting, so I decided to work on the map. Honestly, I didn't have a plan on expanding, so I just built whatever I thought to add at the moment. I first started with Roblox HQ, which I imported, as well as a server room I made myself. I will be remaking this to be way bigger because it will be a major part of the game's storyline, and I want to expand. Next up, I began work on the mountains, which is unfortunately not complete yet, as I also want this to be an important area, which simply cannot happen in its current state. I then added some hills, added more homes, and made some lights that turn on and off depending on the time of day. There's also a bridge and a crosswalk for players to cross the street. Though simple, my favorite part of it all is the beach I made. While working on different things, I made slight changes to the map, including making the shop way bigger and adding terrain water instead of super huge parts. But once I was finished, I moved on to the enemies. My idea for gameplay kinda relied on how I was going to handle fighting and NPCs. I didn't want this game to be another worthless bandit beater, so I decided to look elsewhere for inspiration. Think about games like Zelda and other RPGs. What do those games have in common? They don't rely on repeating the same quest over and over again for progression. In other words, they aren't bandit beaters. The goal in those games is rarely to defeat a certain amount of enemies, but usually going from location to location, finding an item, completing a puzzle, etc. Enemies are mostly used as obstacles for the player to overcome. I want this to be a PvE game, but also have PvP elements, and eventually different game modes. So here's how I began to approach it. For now, there are 3 types of zombies. I made a custom face and used a plugin called Classic Colors to easily use the same color palette from old Roblox. For now, the zombie script looks at all the players in the server and checks if a player is within 50 studs from them. The zombie will then continuously chase the player and damage it until it dies. The runner does the same thing, except it's faster, and the giant flings you, although I'll probably change it to ragdoll you instead. Now here comes the tricky part, randomly spawning zombies. I first tried adding different spawn points all around the map for the zombies to spawn in, but that didn't really work. So then I tried using random placement, and that worked. But I was using run service incorrectly, so it kept spawning them without waiting. Also, I had some lines of code that would slowly kill the zombie if it was daytime, but it was instantly killing them. So I fixed it. Now onto the sword. I wanted zombies to reward the player with a random amount of ticks. I did some research, and I decided that I was going to use the sword to check if it killed an enemy NPC and reward a random amount of ticks. I had to iron out a couple of bugs, but it worked. I also added sound to the sword. Now, after most things were done, I needed a big UI overhaul. I started with the health bar, but it sucked.
Oh my god!
I mean, are you even looking at this disgusting 2012 health bar? Anyway, at the time, I deleted it and put it off for another day while I actually got on task. When I did get started, though, I had an idea of what I wanted, and also wanted to fix a couple of problems with player exploration and such. The map felt too small, and the sprinting animation kept playing even after the player stopped moving. I added a brand new and much better looking health bar with stats, as well as a stamina bar, which is how I was able to continually check if the player had stopped moving, because I had a bug where the stamina would keep draining, even after the player stopped moving. And for the health bar, I just made it look better, and added the health and max health values. I also added something called a viewport frame, which basically allows you to display whatever you want inside of a virtual camera, which is how I got the player's character to display. When I add character customization, I'll change it to be your custom character. Well, that is about it for this episode. I really appreciate all the support throughout June and for 100 subscribers. Let's keep going. Thank you all and have an amazing day.